Hey everybody, it's David Sirota. So in his recent State of the Union address, President Trump once again signaled that he wants to expand the nation's nuclear arsenal. Listen to what he said.
We must modernize and rebuild our nuclear arsenal, hopefully never having to use it, but making it so strong and so powerful that it will deter any acts of aggression by any other nation or anyone else.
Now that declaration came only a few weeks after Trump on Twitter appeared to taunt North Korea with boasts about the United States nuclear arsenal. It's boasts that many people took to mean a threat of a nuclear war. All of these nuclear-themed declarations have a lot of people spooked that Trump could wake up one day and just basically decide to hit the button. And very recently, the Trump administration put forward a nuclear review that suggested that not only does the Trump administration want to expand the U.S.'s nuclear arsenal, but also create new forms of nuclear weapons. All of this has a lot of folks freaked out that the president wants a nuclear war. And the question about that is what, if anything, can be done about that? Because right now, the nuclear launch system is designed to allow a president to launch nuclear weapons whenever he sees fit for any reason at all, essentially against any target whatsoever. It was designed in the Cold War to have as little friction and as few checks and balances as possible between a president issuing an order and then nuclear missiles being launched against a target. So can anything be done about this? Well, there's a bill in Congress now, sponsored by Congressman Ted Lieu and Ed Markey, which would put in place at least a few restrictions. Their bill would essentially restrict a president's power to launch nuclear weapons in a first strike situation unless the president had explicit congressional authorization. So this is not a situation where a president can't launch instantly nuclear weapons in response to a nuclear attack. In an interview with Congressman Ted Lieu, he explained that this is a bill designed specifically to make sure that it's only about first strike capacity. That's what he told International Business Times on our podcast. That it's simply about a president and the power to launch nuclear weapons as a preemptive strike on a country. That the president would in that situation would need congressional authorization for such a launch. The questions about the checks and balances situation with nuclear weapons are relatively new. They have not been necessarily well debated in the past. And it's clear that the reason it's being debated is because of Trump's behavior. He's issuing a tweet taunting a nuclear-armed North Korea about who has more power to essentially obliterate each other's country. You've got a president who's pushing to expand the U.S. nuclear arsenal. So this is clearly in response to Trump's behavior, but it would apply to him, and it would apply to all future presidents. And the fact is that Lieu, in the interview with International Business Times, made the argument that, look, this is not a Cold War situation where a president needs to be able to respond instantly if there are nuclear weapons coming towards the United States. This is a specific situation that people have raised fears about, is that Donald Trump is going to wake up one day and simply decide to hit the button, and without any debate, without any public policy debate, without any checks and balances whatsoever, and that this is designed to at least put a restriction on it. Now, of course, I asked Lieu, I said, look, couldn't the president get some sort of blanket authorization to do it whenever he sees fit? For instance, the resolution after 9/11, the authorization of use of military force, was considered to be, and has at least been interpreted to be, a very, very blanket authorization for all sorts of U.S. wars all across the world, wars in the name of fighting terrorism. Couldn't Trump simply, if Lieu's bill passed, Couldn't Trump simply cite that authorization for the use of military force against terrorists as a justification to launch nuclear weapons in any situation anyway? And he agreed that the authorization of use of military force resolution, as do many critics, agree that it needs to be somewhat limited and somewhat more specific, so that it's not just a blanket authorization. But the key debate here is whether there should be any checks and balances at all on the president when it comes to launching nuclear weapons. Are nuclear weapons so powerful and destructive that they should be seen as a separate class of weapons? I mean, right now, a president can launch conventional weapons at any target for any reason that he sees fit. The question in the Lieu Markey bill is whether there should be special restrictions when it comes to nuclear weapons, because they can essentially, obliterate entire countries in the flash of an instant. It's a huge debate. Lieu says his bill has 76 co-sponsors in the House, mostly Democrats. But this is not really a partisan issue. This is an issue about basic checks and balances, and whether any president, Republican or Democrat, should have that singular power to wake up one day, decide on a whim to press a button and launch nuclear weapons at any country. Should a president have that power? It's a huge question.